And hello, everybody, and welcome back, everyone, to our enlightening panel discussion for today. And today's discussion, of course, is inspired by the viral TikTok series by Tessa, who was on who the F did I marry? And today we're going to talk about a guide to how to protect your heart from someone like a lesion. And this is part two of our discussion. I am Dr. Alicia. I'm going to be the facilitator today who will guide you through this complex world of modern dating, modern love. We're going to get into, with my two wonderful guests here, we're going to get into the personality of legion, the psychology of a legion. And in our first discussion, we uncovered the early warning signs of online dating, crossing over boundaries, the crucial process of self-reflection, and the importance of seeking proper marriage therapy when you're dealing with people with these interesting personalities, particularly someone like Legion, who was a pathological liar. And you can catch part one on Fly Nubian Queen if you scroll down. Don't do it now. Wait until much later. Wait until you're done. If you missed part one, be sure to look at part one. And you'll be able to have a really good introduction to the situation with Tessa and her viral TikTok. But today, I've invited our experts to come back on the show to talk about Legion. I want to take a deeper dive into the psychology of Legion today. And you might be wondering, like a lot of people are wondering, what would make someone want to deceive another person? Why do people feel the need to manipulate others? And according to Tessa, Legion manipulated her into a legal marriage. So our esteemed panel of relationship experts, they're licensed therapists like myself. We're back to share some insights and some strategies on how to protect your heart. And the whole purpose of this is not to gossip. The whole purpose of this is to promote and foster genuine, healthy relationships. And we believe, no matter what your background, no matter what you're going through, we really believe that you can have a healthy relationship, one where you can grow and develop and demonstrate to another person real love and acceptance. So I want to introduce our panelists. Our first panelist is Niquan Lewis, and Niquan is a relationship therapist. She also specializes in sex therapy. So welcome, Niquan.
Thank you.
Okay. And my next panel person that we invited back on here is Dr. Deborah Danzler. She is out of Atlanta, Georgia, which is where this whole incident took place. She is here. She's also a therapist. She works with individuals. She particularly specializes in narcissism and psychopathy and all of the bits and pieces that develop a really troubling character. We will talk about character flaws, lots and lots of character flaws with Legion. And so I just want to thank everybody for coming in. Hello, Dr. Vibe in the chat. Miss Parker saying good evening to Deborah and Niquan. Hello, what is this, Murder Mommy? Okay, hello, welcome everybody. King Trey he's got it interesting. He said he had mental health issues. She saw the red flags. However, she excused them. She sure did. And if you take a look at our panel discussion that we did last week, we dive into the love bombing, the red flags, all of that, how she ignored the red flags. So take a look at that panel discussion last Sunday. And he also says, I think the most important thing we can learn is self-accountability and self-respect. Yes, we talked about that last week, how you co-create some of the experiences. And we got into the psychology of being in denial and ignoring some of those red flags. So Anyway, before we dive in, I do want to have a disclaimer, my shameless disclaimer that, our discussion today, we're going to give you valuable insights into recognizing behaviors associated with Legion's personalities. But I do want you to understand that we're all licensed therapists, so we're not diagnosing anybody with having any sort of traits or any sort of disorder. Our conversation today is really going to be centered on highlighting all of these toxic behaviors, why somebody would want to be a pathological liar. And it's so important to recognize that individual circumstances and nuances cannot be fully addressed in this type of format, right? So if you find yourself relating deeply to the discussions that we have today, or if you're concerned about your relationship patterns in any way, we strongly encourage you to seek professional help from a licensed therapist. If we resonate with you, please reach out to us. You see our information, how to get a hold of us on our Instagram, and you can DM us. You could click on our bio and reach out to us if any one of us resonates with you. But we really think that engaging in professional, personalized, in-depth understanding of your situation, your particular situation, will guide you with the proper guidance and support that you need. So reaching out for help is a brave and critical step toward fostering healthier relationships and personal growth. So I want to get that out of the way, that shameless disclaimer there. So anyway, let's dive in about Legion. Tessa refers to Legion as a pathological compulsive liar. And we kind of look at it and we say, okay, but compulsive lying can stem from many different things, right? It could stem from just character flaws, issues in our personality development. It can also stem from childhood experiences. I don't know I'll let you guys comment on this, but when I meet with clients who feel the need, if I do see them in my office and they have this sort of psychopathy and even narcissism, I find that they come from a very, very troubling childhood, very troubling past, interesting indications of abuse and neglect when in their primary years growing up. And I find that environments where people tend to be dishonest, they do this as a survival mechanism because they don't want to be punished. And deceit is what brings them attention. And I do find that this type of behavior is pretty common. But I would like to hear from you on, maybe we should start with Dr. Deborah. Tell us, where does this come from, this issue with Mr. Legion?
So I absolutely agree with you, Dr. Alicia, with these early developmental experiences. Humans, we all operate out of our core beliefs, and our core beliefs are everything. We're told directly or indirectly, or experienced directly or indirectly, starting from the earliest point possible. And that young human starts to make meaning of things that are happening to them. And oftentimes when things are chaotic and unstable or unsafe, they start to develop techniques and coping strategies for survival. And a lot of times with the narcissistic traits that we see in an adult, that those start to form early, where there's this deep sense of insecurity. I kind of equate it to like Iron Man's circle, his hole in him in the middle. And that deep sense of insecurity, and the messaging is, I need to protect this at all costs. And so that can present in a number of different ways. It could present in this kind of grandiose behavior. It could present in this vulnerable, woe is me behavior. But the characteristics are kind of core, where there's like a general lack of empathy, self-serving, antagonistic behavior. And so that those early experiences really help to shape when somebody has those narcissistic traits, as opposed to slightly different when people have the psychopathy traits. As we know, there, we talked about we're not going to be able to diagnose Legion, but just in general, the diagnostic criteria for antisocial personality and or name as psychopathy. The difference is that sense of vulnerability and insecurity is not there in the psychopathy. It's more of a cold, callous, calculated, cruel orientation. This is where you see people harming small animals, doing criminality at early ages. There's in order to have somebody be able to be diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder, they can't be diagnosed before age 15 with those traits. But also what has to be present is prior to age 15, they have to be diagnosed with what we call conduct disorder. So technically, this is a lifelong pattern of these behaviors.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because we don't know Legion's background, but we do know what Tessa has said, that she's spoken to his family members, and they did not highlight an abusive past.
Yeah.
Which is really amazing. And you know what I immediately thought about was that both of his parents were deceased. And I think that we have this idea that because somebody has passed on, that we feel bad about highlighting possible abuses that they could have done, and just out of respect for the deceased. Nobody wants to talk about how mama and daddy was abusive and neglectful, because that's disrespectful. First of all, it's disrespectful to talk about your parents in that way publicly. So I got the sense that out of respect for the deceased, not to kind of air dirty laundry, because we know as therapists, you're not just born this way. So Nikwan, did you want to comment on that?
Yes. So I'd like to also highlight that for so many families, that are in abusive and or neglectful situations, they don't have the language. They don't identify it as that because it's their norm. Right. So it's very possible in the event that Legion did have experienced neglectful and or abusive childhood treatment, that his siblings may not refer to it as that. That may not be their experience, right? Because if it's your norm, then that's what you know. And you don't necessarily refer to it as that. What I recognize with a lot of the clients that I work with, I literally give a disclaimer with every single client to help them to understand that as we, deconstruct and peel back the layers, at no point in time are we pointing the finger at anybody else, their parents or their partner, because this is about them. Because I find that people do shy away from saying certain things because they feel that they may paint the person in a bad light. So that may be Legion's family's situation or perspective. It may not.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dr. Deborah.
Add as well, in terms of like this core belief formation is two parts. It's what they're experiencing, but it's also what the small human is interpreting. And this line of abuse and neglect, it has nothing to do with intent. It has to do with impact. And so something as simple as, Legion is a twin, something as simple and seemingly innocuous as, well, why can't you be more like your brother? Or praising this brother and not praising this brother really can have an impact on that small child in ways that, we don't see till much later.
So it does not have to be something as physical or, just outright what we deem as abuse. Right.
Exactly. It could be emotional. It could be inadvertent. Again, back in the day, and he's about my age. We had these parents that believed in this kind of tough love. I'm gonna, kind of build you up and break you down because society is rough out there, especially for Black men. We don't know what kind of well-intended harsh comments were perceived by that small human.
No, yeah, I mean, I really like what you're saying. And we also heard Tessa even say when she talked to the brother that he had schizophrenia, that he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And it starts to make me wonder, maybe he was somebody in the family that was extra sensitive. And as you said, sometimes in some family dynamics, if you're a sensitive person, I'm thinking about Michael Jackson, how sensitive he was. He grew up in Gary, Indiana, or at least when he was younger, he was in Gary, Indiana. And it's just, that environment and his father being really hard on him, it had a bigger effect on him because he was very sensitive. So sometimes in family dynamics, you have someone who's a little more sensitive. And when you recognize you have a very sensitive child, I'm looking at my daughter. She's a creative. She's a dancer. I have to talk to her a different way. I can't talk to her the way I talk to the rest of the kids, because she'll cry real easy. She's very sensitive. She is very, she can be very emotional because she feels things so deeply sometimes. And so it could have been something, going on with her or with him, where he may have been chastised for being different because he had this mental health issue. And you think about a lot when it's diagnosed, you start to question who you are, your whole existence. I work with a lot of clients who they live their life knowing that they were a little different, but when they have this severe mental health issue, it's like they have to relearn themselves again. And so depending on the type of environment that they're in, I'm thinking, okay, he's listening to these voices. And I know I talked to you guys about if he was diagnosed with schizophrenia, could it have been that perhaps when he was on the phone, there's a story about him being on the phone talking to his brother, but there was nobody on the other end. And I'm thinking, wow, is this one of the symptoms of schizophrenia? Maybe there was some auditory hallucinations, or it could be that it was just his way of avoiding interaction with his wife. Sometimes you become workaholics, or sometimes you pretend like, let me hurry up and busy myself and do all these things so I can avoid interacting with my wife, because she may figure out that I'm not being truthful. Either one of you can comment on that.
It actually, I feel, again, we're just on the outside looking in, but it is my perspective, just based off of everything that was said. It was probably more in line with the manipulation piece, right? Mm-hmm. And like Dr. Deborah discussed, the differences between narcissism and antisocial personality disorder. Manipulation is key with both of them. And because he has sought out to deceive not just Risa Tessa, but several other people, yes. It's for me, it's more in line. It could be, right? It could be, but it definitely feels like it's more in line with that manipulation piece.
Yeah, it could be. What do you think, Dr. Deborah? Do you think it was manipulation, or it could be hallucinations? Who knows?
Yeah, the line is very thin here. It really could be either in that the manipulation was key and a part of everything, with the future faking and all the other behaviors. But whether he was hearing a voice on the other side of the phone or not, if he was having an auditory experience of some hallucination, we shall never know. But I think at most, it's probably, at least it may be both, right? Maybe if he heard a little bit of something, or if he was trying to trick her and believing. Because I think even the example, which leads me to think to manipulation, is when they went to the office, right? When they went to, or tried to go to his, behind the NCR building down here in downtown Atlanta. And he had the office there and he wanted to show her, and then he's calling the security guard on the phone. Yeah. So yeah, that doesn't seem like that would have been an auditory hallucination. That was definitely manipulation.
All day.
Yeah, all day.
Yeah, I do think it's manipulation. And we all know that he has spoken out. He has identified himself. I think his real name is Jerome. He's self-identified. Like, she did not say his name or anybody. He has said, this is who I am. And he's claimed that everything Tessa has said never happened. He said it all was a lie. And it could be, I mean, who knows, it could be a very elaborate lie, but she was very detailed and specific. And that's one of the things that happens when you know someone's telling the truth, or they seem more credible when they're able to, it just makes sense. It comes across as real and genuine. And I think that so far, and we'll play one of his videos, but it really does seem as if what she's saying seems to come across as very sincere. A lot of people are like tuning into that and relating to some of this. They're saying, you know what, I can relate to all of this. I've had many different aspects of someone manipulating me and saying one thing and doing another and not being transparent. And I think it just makes the dating world in this modern world extremely frightening. Yes. You know, because you're meeting somebody virtually online. And of course, there's various degrees in people misrepresenting themselves. And sometimes it's okay. I mean, you think about online apps where they did a study on that. They looked at men who were like 5'11". Men who were 5'11" were more apt to put the fact that they were 6 feet tall on their dating app, you know, so little tweaks like that, I think it's okay. But to totally represent yourself in this way that has nothing to do with who and what you really are, lying about your siblings. Yes. It's unbelievable, the level of lies that he told her and the fact that she fell for that. So anyway, I just want to welcome everybody. I want to remind everyone, if you're just joining us, that we are diving deep into this topic of dating. We're talking about how we're exploring it because we want to learn the deceitful traps of Legion's love toward Tessa, but we want to use it as a way to empower you with the knowledge and tools that you can have so that you can be able to suspect if somebody might be lying to you. And I think that leads into our next question, is just that how do you spot somebody who might be deceptive to you, or embody those personality traits of Legion when you're dating? Any suggestions on how do we spot and identify deception? Any one of you can go. How about Daquan? How about you go first?
So I am encouraging everyone to really focus on taking your time and getting to know people that you encounter and asking very much more rich questions. Yes, ask the, typical, what do you like to do type of things. But as adults, especially, I believe Tessa was in her late 30s, early 40s, right? We need to be very much more mindful with our questioning as we get to know people. What are your beliefs on mental health, right? What are your beliefs on mental health? What are your thoughts on therapy? Questions like that, but also just really taking your time, asking questions, being open and vulnerable, but building trust. That was the thing that Tessa did not do. She did not allow trust to be built. Trust is not something we should just be giving folk all willy-nilly. It needs to be built. I need actionable steps. I need evidence that I should be trusting you, right? So building those boundaries. Flexible boundaries means that we know who to let in, but we also know who to keep out. Right. So it's setting boundaries with people, verbalizing them, not just implying them, because implying boundaries are not there. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Right. You have to verbalize your boundaries and maintain them by, if somebody crosses them, okay, now we need to have another conversation. But if I continue to cross your boundary, it is no longer there. There has to be some kind of consequence. Right.
Yeah. So, I really like that. I like when you put up boundaries, or even if you say, this is moving too fast for me. I just met you. You shouldn't be paying my bills right now. This is not your responsibility. It's too early for this. This makes me uncomfortable. She was a very religious person. And the fact that it was just like, let's move in together and have this baby. And she wasn't even married. It was going so fast. And I do think that might be a sign of a deceptive person. They are somebody who escalates the relationship too fast without genuine empathy, right? They want to, but in the midst of it, they haven't really shared really personal, intimate things about themselves. They just want to it comes across like, let's just do this quickly. What are we waiting for? And so that might be something that's really important. Okay, Dr. Deborah, how about you weigh in?
Yeah.
How can we spot somebody like this?
No, I was actually going to say exactly what you were going to say, what you just said, and piggyback off what Naquan said. The organic way of all human relationships, the way our human relationships when we met, and all human relationships, whether they're romantic or not, they all develop organically in the same fashion: know, like, and trust. In that order. You cannot go from "hi, my name is" to trust. You can't jump that step of getting to know the person over time. And yes, that is one of the characteristics of these personalities, where it's just going to be white hot intense, and they want to go from 0 to 100 really, really fast. Another characteristic is this superficial charm.
Yeah.
So they're going to be super charming, you're going to get flooded with all the dopamine, all the, right? It's like almost too much. And so what I would tell people or encourage people is to practice awareness, practice body awareness.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
What's happening in your body? If we're feeling intoxicated in this interaction, maybe that's an indication that we should pause. We should
not go forward.
And we should.
Yes.
I'm saying, like, pause and not, because you feel that way. Like, oh yes, right, I'm all in it if I feel that intoxication. But yes,
yeah,
saying no.
Pause and reality check.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you have, like you had mentioned before, having your support system, have your circle, have your squad, right? Okay, this is what I'm experiencing with this guy. He feels amazing. I feel like I'm, floating every time I'm around him. It feels, I feel like I'm out, having out of body experiences. We need to reality check, right? Somebody should be able to say, does that feel like it's moving a little fast? That sounds like that's a little intense, right? And then we have the belief that, oh, I just love hard. That's not love. That is an excess of dopamine. That is not actually love. The other thing is that awareness of, are they mirroring you?
Yes.
You just mentioned that when these intense relationships happen, they ask you a bunch of questions. Oh my goodness, Naquan, tell me about where you're from. Tell me about this. Tell me about this. Alicia, tell me this. Tell me that. Oh, you used to be a cheerleader. Oh, they want to know everything about you, but they're giving nothing. They're not giving enough of themselves. Mm-hmm. This is not a balanced thing. And the thing is, humans, we like to talk about ourselves. That's part of the dopamine. That's part of, we want to share. Oh my God, I'm so interested in me. He really listens, right? But what's happening is they're getting to know us and we're not getting to know them. And we're not making solid values-based decisions on who this person is because we actually don't know them.
And we don't know them. And the reason why we don't know them is because they just go with whatever you say. And how you get to know somebody, and I talked to my couples about this, how you get to know somebody is when you have conflict. And I never once heard Tessa talk about, we argued about this. We had a disagreement about this. I got the impression that he was just living his little facade, whatever, which he created based on what she was saying. And then he was going back doing whatever he wanted to do anyway. And when she discovered a lot of that, she wanted to get down into why and how and see a couples therapist that really wasn't a couples therapist. She wanted to get down into it to find out exactly how and why, but never really got down to what was motivating him to lie to her, because that's what I deal with my couples. I'm like, okay, there's deception here. Okay, what motivated you to want to talk about this? And if you're not able to talk about that, if you're not open, then I have to say open communication is a hallmark of a trustworthy person. I mean, there's lots of hallmarks, but if you're not going to be just honest and start talking about things, even if it hurts somebody's feelings, you know, it's your lack of integrity. So this is for everybody. If you're dating somebody and you've been dating them for a long time and you never have a disagreement, you know, that might be a sign that they're deceptive, because they're adverse. They could be adverse to disagreements, but they can also be manipulating you. And I like to call it manipulation. They're managing you. You know, that's what people do. They manage you because they want to control you. They want to make sure that you have everything you need so that they can lie to you. And then they can go back and do whatever they want. They're like, you know what? I'm just going to tell that person what they want to hear. And you know when somebody's lying to you, you feel it in your gut. First of all, their stories are so inconsistent. They feel it in their gut. And they are deeply insecure people, and they have very low self-esteem. And as soon as you notice that, that's what's driving the whole thing behind them not being comfortable being seen, because they think they'll be rejected. But that's the psychology of the people who really feel like they need to manipulate. These people, I just want to let you know, even though people who deceive others, you think they're satisfied with their deception. But you know what? Those people live miserable lives. Miserable. And they're empty. I'm so happy you mentioned that hole in the middle. They're empty inside and nothing can fill it. And their self-esteem is lacking. They don't feel good about themselves. And when they see other people do well, they're not genuinely happy for other people. They're selfish. And if they do something for somebody, it's only because they feel like they can get something out of it. And guess what? People who are self-aware can pick up on it. And when you meet somebody and you walk away from that conversation, you'd be like, oh, something is not right. I just got a funny feeling in my gut. You listen to that. Everybody, hear me when I say this. Listen to what your gut is telling you. Do not say, oh, I'm going to give everybody a chance. I'm going to do this, because you know what's going to happen down the line. You're going to turn around and you're going to say, I knew it. I knew that person was lying to me. I knew something wasn't right.
Yeah.
I knew it. And that's a very sad state to be in. Okay, any one of you all can pick it up from here.
No, I agree that it's a sad state to think that, people can see and take advantage of people's empathy and big heart, right? We talked about, the person had mentioned self-responsibility, and I agree that we have to own our part in these interactions, but we have to be aware of that we're in a game, that oftentimes when people are interacting with people with these personality traits, we're on a court that we are unprepared to be on. We are on playing one-on-one against LeBron. We are on the court with Serena Williams. These are professionals at what they do. We are not. We are woefully inadequately prepared to navigate and deal with the things, because who would think that, right? Like, most people do not go into interactions with the entering assumption that this person is going to be dishonest and manipulative, or they want to harm me, because we can't live like that. We can't, and we shouldn't have to. It's nothing wrong with wanting to be loved, wanting to have connection, wanting to have a relationship, wanting to be married. All of that is absolutely natural. But to your point, I say trust, but check, right? Go with, if you trust your body, trust your gut, have your team for reality testing, and do things that, like you just mentioned, it would ensure that you have some sort of conflict. Doesn't have to be a big conflict, but when you have a conflict, you're going to see how this person responds. Right?
As soon as she knew, as soon as she figured out that there was no realtor, that he never put anything down on this particular house, she should have had a very serious conversation with him right away. She should have said, I need to talk to you about something, and it is very serious. And I want to sit down with you what's really going on. And that should have put everything into question for her. You know what I mean? I'm just telling everybody, give yourself the green light to investigate and to say, this is not quite right. Don't just hold back your judgment. Maybe she's that kind of person that holds her judgment back. No, at that point, this is somebody you're giving your body to, your home to, a potential person could have been born. She could have had a baby.
Oh, I think we are frozen. But what she was saying, the reason, well, not the reason, one of the reasons why I believe Risa Tessa did not do that is because of the risk involved. I believe that she was coming from a place of desperation with being COVID and all those things. We talked about this on last week's episode. And so it is important to first come to the relationship ready for partnership, right? So you're coming to the relationship, doing your work, loving on you, coming, whole, meaning self-love. And then I can come to the relationship and I can see things that threaten the state of the relationship and still act on it.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we
Hey, everybody. Am I back on?
You're back.
Am I back on? The video's still frozen, but we could hear you.
I'm back. Okay.
Yes, we were.
I'm sorry. I have no idea what happened to the internet. Maybe we are so on fire. We're just blowing up the internet here. But anyway, hey everybody, we're back now. We're talking about the psychology of allegiance. We are talking about, why do people become impulsive liars? Why do people feel the need to manipulate other people? And how can you guys, all of you all who are in the dating scene, all of you all who are in intimate relationship with somebody, how can you spot if somebody is a liar? And I'd like to, before we go on, I'd like to share my screen and play a response. So Legion, by the way, Legion has come out with a response to Tessa, and he's basically said everything she said was a lie. But I'd like for us to watch the video and comment on, what do you feel? Because we just talked about your gut. So I'm going to try to share my screen. Hopefully I can do it. Hopefully there'll be no connection issues. So let me see. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to play Mr. Legion. His name is Jerome. And I'm going to play his response to Tessa. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. And is it here? Oh, wait. It could be. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me make sure I got it. Let me make sure I got the right video up. Oh, let's see. I can't, it was not up. Oh, here we go. Okay. I got it now. Okay. So, all right, everybody. Hold on. Okay. So here we go. Here it is. We're going to watch him and see what you get. Tell us, everybody in the chat, let's watch this video of Legend's response and then put in the chat what you think about it. I'm curious about what other people think. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm also going to share my audio. And here we go. Okay.
He's ex-wife.
Okay.
I'm gonna address the rumor Risa Tessa ex-wife who straight line to y'all. It's sad. It's completely false. More to the point, I haven't decided who I'm gonna talk to exactly or on whose page or whatever. But I'm gonna go ahead and let y'all know that she lied about everything. Follow her, don't follow her. That's up to you. All that stuff she said, it's complete lies.
What y'all think? In the chat, everybody who's here with us, what do you think? Does it make sense? Does he seem like he's being honest and open? And does he seem as if he is really sharing deeply about his victim? Like if she is lying to him, lying about him, then he would have to feel hurt by that, right? What do you all think? Listening to his words and looking at his affect. People in the chat, is anybody? Type in there. Do you think it's a lie? Do you think he is being honest, or do you think he is just making things up? Come on, King Trey, free will. What does free will say? Oh, can y'all see me or hear me? Am I frozen?
You're frozen.
But we can hear you.
I think I might be. Am I frozen? Am I still here?
You're here now.
Oh gosh, I'm frozen. Okay, I can't see what's going on in the chat. I don't know what's happening with my connection issues. But what do you guys think? Watching that video, what did you see? What did you notice?
For me, it was very surface. Like probably a lot of his things. It was very surface level. There was no real, meat to it, no empathy. There was no emotion to it, which is very on brand for somebody who very well may have some, narcissistic traits, antisocial personality disorder traits. So, lack of empathy. There was no real outrage. There was just a lack of emotion. What do you think, Dr. Deborah?
I absolutely agree. It was very surface. It was very callous. Risa, Tessa, whatever, XY, like this kind of very glib response. And he said that everything she says is a lie. And I think that we can talk more and dissect just that, because what would be the benefit, right? He said that everything she said is a lie, and she did it for likes, right? So she told an amazing story, because she's an amazing storyteller, over 50 parts, changed the TikTok game, but she never mentioned his name
At all.
She didn't out him. She didn't want to have anything to do with him. So why? He's the one now crawling and climbing and scraping for the attention. Now that he's been outed, how many videos has he posted in 2 weeks? How many interviews has he done in 2 weeks? He's talking to Netflix, but nobody asked him. She didn't want him. I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened with it, but what I did hear from you, Dr. Deborah, I agree. He just said none of what she said was true, but he didn't get specific as to what's particular. Like if somebody got online and she did a 50-part series. She spent 500 minutes. Who spends 500 minutes lying about somebody? I would have had my little piece of paper out, and I would have been like, you lied about this, you lied about this, you lied about this, and I would have had receipts, and I would have been talking to my lawyer, and I'd be so mad. I'd be going on and on. Like I would be talking about things and having like particular words down about what it was. Like I would have done, if somebody had done a 500-minute series about B and I was outed, maybe he was outed, then I would be like, okay, I'm gonna do a 5,000-minute series refuting and gaining my credibility. But to get online and to just say it wasn't true, none of it. Like, well, what? None of it was true. What if any of it was actually accurate? And that means if Tessa is a liar, then is she lying about your family members or all of the ex-girlfriends? Did you see that one? The ex-girlfriends that have come out and said, no, I used to date him too, and the same thing happened with me. Like all of these people are corroborating Tessa's story about him. Is making him look bad. So yeah, I agree with that. I'm glad I'm back online. I'm glad my internet seems to be working. Okay, Nicole, you wanted to say something?
Oh yeah, I went before Dr. Deborah, and I just was
you
saying
did.
that
You already went. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lack of empathy, a lack of emotion. Like you were saying, somebody lied on me to the public. I mean, like just lying on me in general, I'm going to be hot, right? And I'm coming for you legally, and I'm coming for your coins because a whole 50-part, series. So he just lacked a lot of emotion. So he was right on brand with the narcissism, the antisocial personality, things that we are talking about.
Yes,
the things that we want to us avoid because they cause long-term harm.
Yeah. And even if she was lying, what difference did it make anyway? Because she didn't even name him personally. Like, just
Exactly.
stay hiding, stay behind the scenes, and you're like, "Ooh, that lady crazy, she lying," and then you just move on because she never specifically identified him and did not give identifying information about him. So I'm sorry, I'm weighing in. I agree, and it looks like from the chat, everybody thinks, they are agreeing. Is it just me? Okay. Oh, they both, PC says they both need mental health care.
Yeah, I agree. And then we talked about PG. If you want to go check out our episode from last week, we got into the Risa Tissa's part that she played. So I just want to highlight, we're talking about Legion today, but we talked about Risa Tissa's role and how the denial, she came from a place of, what's the word that I said? Desperation. She came from a place of desperation,
Yes.
right? And so that in COVID, in the psychology of all of those things and how that may have influenced, her decision making. So we're talking about Legion today, but we did very much talk about Reese's last week.
Yes, and we did talk about it, and Kristen Crowder is saying it's attention-seeking behavior. He's sitting back going, how is she getting all these likes? How is she getting all this attention? I want in on some of this attention. And it seems like there's going to be a whole category of, looks like, men that are going to be interviewing him and bringing him on and joining with him in his quest to say that this lady is not telling the truth. Okay, so we had internet issues, but we got through it. I think we did a pretty good dive into the psychology of somebody who would want to deceive. And I think that what we've talked about is that it really comes from a place of not feeling good about yourself, low self-esteem, a place of shame. And a lot of that gets turned into not wanting to be transparent with people, feeling ashamed about yourself and wanting to hide aspects of yourself. And just some people just get a thrill of just manipulating others. And then that gets into dark psychopathy of just, I told her whatever she wanted. And I'm sitting here laying up in this nice house during COVID. And he's meanwhile on the back end of it, he's telling her one thing, but he's living a whole nother life. He was dating women. He was sending weird text messages. I think he may have had some sort of sex addiction. Anything that you guys want to add in about the psychology of Legend?
So go ahead, Dr. Deborah.
No, go ahead, Nicole.
Dr. Deborah.
So it's important to know that with the two, Dr. Alicia mentioned the dark psychopathy. When you talk about the Dark Triad, which is the 3 personality disorders that's included, right? Antisocial personality disorder, narcissism, and Machiavellianism.
Machiavellianism.
Machiavellianism, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. And so with the 2 that I see specifically, which is the narcissism and the antisocial personality disorder, there can be some overlap with those 2, right? But the key ones with narcissism being its ego, it's about stroking that ego, where the antisocial personality, they really do it they have no regard, just literally no regard for people. And so you want to be very mindful as you date to look for things, not just these 3, but it's important to understand that healthy relationships are built. They are not just coming, out of thin air. They are built with time, effort, consistency, paying attention, like that, that awareness that Dr. Deborah talked about, right? Knowing your values, principles, and morals, and asking someone the same thing. And so you will see some of those traits if you have the time, if you give yourself the time to see those things.
Yeah, and it's funny, you do need to give yourself time, because a lot of times it's invisible. You think this person is really empathetic, but they aren't. You know what I mean? Like, even if Tessa was making a lot of the stuff up, at some point, you often wonder, I was married to this lady and she divorced me. At any point, Was he at any point empathetic to anything she went through? You know, is it that he did absolutely nothing wrong? He did nothing wrong in that relationship, and it's all on her. He can't acknowledge or take responsibility for any of the issues that went on in that relationship. And usually that's another sign. When you talk to somebody and you're about to date somebody, you ask them, tell me about your other relationships. How did it end? What happened? And if that person, all they can tell you is how that other person did me wrong, and that other person was narcissistic, and that other person, blah, 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 they can never really point to their part in why the relationship ended. If someone comes to you and say, you know what, I did everything I could. I was nice to this person. I was kind to this person, and this person mistreated me. You know, I think that somebody who approaches the situation like that, you do need to kind of wonder. And I like the fact that even when Tessa was telling the story, she even said, you know what, this is where I was wrong. You know, I knew that he was lying, and I knew that things weren't right, but I know y'all don't get me for this one, but I went ahead and did this. You know what I mean? So I like the fact that she was also in that midst able to recognize the entire picture of it. And that is in itself a sign of somebody who's telling the truth, who's being authentic. They're being able to self-reflect and to see their part in a situation, even though it ended in a way that it did. Dr. Deborah, did you want to comment on this before we say goodbye?
Yes, absolutely. That the ability to have that self-reflection, that ability to own personal responsibility and take accountability and really be specific, because again, just like with that clip you showed, this kind of surface, like he has shown no ability to take any personal responsibility or accountability at all. Everything is absolutely her fault. He is absolutely the victim here. He caught her cheating in that clip. So it's just everything is woe is me, right? So again, one of the things we were talking about tonight is, what are those warning signs, right? The warning signs of the hot, white, intense quickness of it. The inability for somebody to take personal responsibility or accountability from anything with their life. That cold callousness, even looking for micro changes to their face. If you're like out and somebody trips, which could be something, but if they're getting pleasure out of other people's pain or other painful things, this is an indication that it's beyond narcissism. Now we're over to that psychopathy side, right? And how do they treat other people? When you go out to restaurants, when you go out in public, how are they treating the waiter? How are they treating the hostess? How are they, when you're buying things in the store, are they acting in a way that is superior, right? These are all signs that now we need to go back to our tribe and do some reality testing. Or I love that she kept her audio diary because that was a self-grounding way of testing reality. But, we can't live in a bubble and deny ourselves love. I just think we have to have awareness and accept when we see red flags, and then act accordingly.
Yeah, and I so agree with that. And I think that before you jump into a relationship with somebody, another sign, we're giving y'all signs here. We're giving you signs. Another sign is that you want to pay attention to how that person experiences disappointments. What happens when things don't go their way? And that will tell you, do they get defensive? Do they get really angry and intolerable? Do they lack emotional regulation? When people are nice and calm, it's easy to be nice and charming, when you're calm. But then what happens when things don't go their way, when they feel disappointed? Do they go off? 0 to 100 going off on you. That's a sign that that something is amiss here. So anyway, I'm happy to be back online. I want to thank my two wonderful guests here. Dr. Deborah, could you tell everybody how people can get a hold of you, and any last words you'd want to say, if any?
I just want to thank you again for this wonderful conversation and this platform. Just thank you. I've really enjoyed it. And people can follow me on Instagram at the 3D Psychotherapy. And thank you.
Yes, and she's out of Atlanta, Georgia, right there. So let me see if Tessa wants to see somebody. You got Dr. Deborah to come to this. She's licensed in the state of Georgia. She right there. So she might be listening to this. I hope she reaches out to you. Okay, Nicole, tell us where people can find you and how they can reach out to you if they're interested. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for having me again, Dr. Alicia. I always enjoy our chats. You guys can follow me on all socials at Intimate Connections PLLC, which is the name of my private practice here in Katy, Texas. And last words would be that, healthy relationships start with have healthy people in them, right? Not perfect, but healthy people, and it starts with you.
I love it. There's nothing wrong with marriage. There's something wrong with some of the people who are married. And it's important that you look at that. Marriage is wonderful. It's the people in it that can make it or break it. So keep that in mind. And everybody, share this video with people. There's 3 licensed therapists. We got multiple decades of brain power right here in this video. So like and share and tell number. I like her about text love to 7948. Text love, and then you can stay on top of some of the things that we're doing. Yes. Did you
say it again?
Say anything?
You were going out.
Yeah, it was kind of cutting out.
Oh my gosh, I gotta get my internet right. 87948, text LOVE, and you can get information on healthy relationships and everything that going on with Dr. Alicia. I want to thank everybody. Thank you, King Trey. Thank you, Free Will. Thank you. Reach for the sky. Reach for the sky. Live up today. Hey, Lynn, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. With part 2, we dived into the psychology of legion, how to avoid a legion, how to guard your heart against anybody who might be manipulating you. And it's not just men. Sometimes women do it too. So don't get into a lot of women here bashing men. I did men pissed on here. They weren't able to make it again today. We'll keep trying. We're definitely open platform for any male professional that wants to come here and give a male therapist perspective. We'd love to have you. And goodbye, everybody.